It's 2 p.m. on a Saturday here in Korea, live from Seoul. I'm Connie Lee. It's been 77 hours since the nearly 7,000-ton Sewol-ho ferry took to the waters with more than 470 people on board. More than 270 of them still remain missing at this time. And we are in the fourth day now of search and rescue operation in and around the sunken Sewol-ho ferry. But now, as the ferry is completely submerged and flipped upside down underwater, hopes are dimming, with family members of those still missing clinging on to the possibility that air pockets could have kept passengers alive. Now, for the latest on this ferry disaster, we have our Connie Lee following the updates from the newsroom right now. Connie, give us the figures first. The government has revised the number of passengers that the ferry was carrying and the number of rescued people.
That's right, Conn-young. As of now, 29 passengers have officially been confirmed dead, and 273 people remain missing. Now, the total number of passengers has changed, with one more person added. Officials originally stated that 476 people were on that ferry, and that the number of rescued has been reduced and now stands at 174, down 5 from the previous figure. Government officials say they made a mistake, apparently not realizing repeated names on the rescued list. Again, the number of missing people remains at 273. And you know, Conn-young, there is a sad reality that the potential death toll from this ferry disaster is at 302 people. Now, this includes those already confirmed dead, plus those missing.
Right. And we are still clinging on to the hope that there will be survivors in the sunken ferry. And conflicting reports from the government is not helping either, with less trust in them that these families are having.
Right.
Connie, there is news that search divers have caught a glimpse of some bodies in the ship. What's the latest there?
Yes, well, early this morning, officials said that divers did spot 3 possible bodies through a window inside the 3rd or 4th floor of the sunken ferry. Now, this is the first time bodies were spotted since rescue operations began on Wednesday. Now, divers were not actually able to get inside the ship early this morning because they couldn't break through the windows. But officials say they are currently working on doing that, and we'll bring you more on that as updates come in. But in the meantime, on Jindo Island, authorities have started taking DNA samples from the relatives of those still missing. A tent has been set up for that to help authorities eventually identify the bodies. Conn-young, back to you.
Right, it's a very incredibly difficult time. It must be for those families and for the entire nation. All right, thank you, Connie, and we'll check back in with you later in the newscast for other updates. But now let's go over to Jindo. Now, as you heard, search and rescue divers will try to break into the vessel to retrieve the bodies they spotted earlier this morning. It's really a race against time for the rescuers, with bad weather in the forecast for later this afternoon. Now, ARIRAN's Yoo Dian joins us live from Pengmok Harbor, nearby the site of the ferry capsize. Leah, what's new on the research, the rescue and search operations front?
Conn-young, there's an intense rescue operation undergoing here at the Pengmok Harbor. A team of 8 to 10 divers will be going into the waters a total of 40 times this afternoon to continue the search and rescue operation, and also, as mentioned by Connie earlier, to retrieve the 3 bodies that's been spotted earlier this morning. They have already tried once to break through the windows to get those bodies, but have failed, and efforts will continue on this afternoon. Now, the Coast Guard is set to install what's called a jack-up barge. Those are small platforms that can be used as a base for divers to dive from. And also, a wire net will be thrown to the vicinity of the site of the accident so that it can prevent any bodies from being drifted away by these strong tides. Also, 3 lift backs have been installed yesterday on the vessel to keep it from sinking even further. 23 more will be installed today and in the coming days.
Leah, now, how is the weather looking down there right now? I also hear there has been an oil spill has hindered rescue efforts.
Unfortunately, the weather isn't looking too nice. I can already feel the wind picking up there. I'm already also seeing some fog in the air, and also rain is in the forecast for this afternoon. The wind will grow stronger as we get into the afternoon to about 12 kilometers per hour, and tides will also be high as 2 meters. And like you said, there has been an oil spill from the Sewol-ho ferry, and right now there's an oil ban with 1 kilometer of diameter surrounding the site of the accident. So the Coast Guard here really has to deal with two things at hand. Of course, containing the oil spill, but also continuing the search and rescue operations amid the harsh weather. Conn-young?
Right, we all have our fingers crossed for that. Thank you, Leon, for the report. That was ARIRANG's Yudian reporting from Pengmok Harbor, the focal point of the search and rescue operations. The speed of search and rescue operations is picking up, but it has so far made a little progress, and that is stoking anger among the families of the missing passengers, and they are blaming the government for not doing enough. But it seems there aren't that many viable options at this point, as experts say some of the rescue suggestions raised by the general public would just make things worse than they already are. Here's our Park Ji-won with a closer look.
Fast currents, adverse weather conditions, including rain and strong gusts of wind. Rescue divers' attempts to enter into the sunken ferry have failed repeatedly since the search and rescue operations began 3 days ago. Rescue teams have opted to search for survivors, with divers using underwater paths to get into the vessel. Some have raised questions whether drilling a hole directly into the vessel to pull out any possible survivors might have been a better option. But the experts say there was not a viable option. They say if there are any survivors inside the now sunken Sewol-ho ferry, they're using air pockets to stay alive. If a hole had been drilled from the outside, it would have caused water to rush in, collapsing those air pockets. They also point out the welding necessary to make the hole would have generated carbon monoxide within the ship, which could have been fatal as well.
Carbon monoxide poisoning could have caused a bigger accident. It's extremely rare to execute rescue operations by drilling a hole into a ship.
To help search divers in the area, some have proposed setting up large commercial ships, such as oil tankers, nearby to block rapid tidal currents. But experts say this is also not an option because the direction of tides change 4 times a day, meaning deploying just 1 or 2 wouldn't help.
At least 3 ships need to be deployed to safely surround the sunken ship to prevent currents, which would take at least 6 months.
Then what about lifting the ship by cranes? Refloating the ship, experts say, will take at least a few weeks, which would be far too late for any survivors if there are any on board. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
Now, distraught families of those on board the Sewol-ho ferry have been camping out at an auditorium nearby the accident site in Chindo, waiting in agony for news that their kids have returned safe and sound. Of course, information on rescue efforts have been readily available, but the mood is filled with sorrow, frustration, and anger, and understandably so. We connect live to our Kwon So-ah from the Chindo Indoor Auditorium. So, what's the situation there like?
Conn-young, a big row unfolded here at the Chindo Indoor Auditorium between authorities and families of the missing. Now, it all began with a video clip that showed underwater rescue operations, which in the eyes of the families was useless. Now, the clip was shown on a widescreen here in the gymnasium a bit before 12. The clip showed search and rescue operations beneath the water conducted by divers with underwater cameras attached to their helmets early this Saturday. Authorities said that the visibility was on the good side. The process of the operation was thoroughly explained to the families. The divers went as deep as 20 meters below the surface using a rope and did their search on the 3rd and 4th floors corridor. Now, they did not make it into the interior of the ship, and they did not find any survivors nor bodies. However, they will try again during the afternoon.
I mean, so it's very understandable that the families of the missing are just frustrated, angry at the pace of this search.
Exactly. Parents have been shouting out, what's the use of showing us this clip if it doesn't show any productive results and if you can't bring back our children? And they also raised the question about international equipment when officials said with the current marine police and private organizations equipment, there is a limited time the divers can actively do the search. Now, there was also word about a camcorder that has allegedly filmed bodies in the water, but that has not yet been confirmed. Now, as time passes, it's getting harder and harder for the families to accept the fact that hope is diminishing, and that's what's making the situation here more and more tense. Conn-young?
Right, so it's impossible to describe with words what must be going through the minds of the families right now. I'm sure you'll keep us updated on the situation there. That was our Kwon Soo-ah reporting live from the Jindo Indoor Auditorium. Now, the cause of the accident is yet to be determined, and why the ship had suddenly changed direction, which might have caused its cargo and loaded vehicles to suddenly shift, eventually leading to the vessel to lose balance, tilt, and eventually capsize. But the tracking record of the critical minutes where the ship sailed in an abnormal manner is missing. Our Song Ji-sun reports.
All ships are tracked from departure to arrival with a device that emits a signal every 6 seconds. It's called the Automatic Identification System, or AIS, and is used for identifying and locating vessels. On the Sewol-ho ferry, the system was working properly until 8:48 a.m., but by 8:52, the ship had turned 100 degrees and had sailed 400 meters. But the AIS was off for that 4 minutes, meaning the ship was damaged to a significant level that the electricity went off or the equipment stopped working. From that point, the ferry drifted north for over an hour until it came to a stop and eventually capsized. There's confusion about why the ship needed to change direction at the point it did.
The location is a turning point where the ship needs to start changing direction. We are looking into whether it was a normal change of direction or whether it changed direction due to an unusual circumstance.
But an official at the Oceans Ministry said there was no critical need to change direction, and the ship could have sailed on its regular route at that point. It's all down to the captain and the third navigator who was in charge of steering at the time to find out what really happened during those 4 minutes when the automatic tracking system stopped working. Song Ji-sun, ARIRANG News.
So we are still trying to find out what exactly caused this 7,000-ton ferry to capsize, and at the same time we are continuing on with search and rescue operations for those 270 plus missing. But once bodies are recovered, or better yet, if survivors are found, they will be brought to the Mokpo Hanguk Hospital located in Korea's southern Jeollanam province. This is not too far away from the site of the accident. Now, we have a reporter standing by. Our Ji Myung-gil is at the hospital. Myung-gil, fill us in.
Hello, Conn-young. Well, I'm currently at the Mokpo Hanguk Hospital. So far, no bodies or survivors have come here as of yet. Currently, 11 survivors are undergoing treatment here at the hospital. If I give you on the latest figures, among the 19 survivors, 11 are having serious injuries, while 8 have been discharged. 10 bodies also arrived here at the hospital. The hospital is providing psychiatric therapy for survivors who are being treated. A medical helicopter is also on standby along with 2 medics so that the hospital could efficiently transport rescue survivors or bodies.
Well, Myung-gil, with each passing second, minute, and hour, hopes for finding survivors are diminishing. However, I'm sure the hospital is ready for the arrival of any rescued passengers, right?
Well, hospital officials said 50 beds have been prepared for any late-coming survivors, and also 20 doctors and nurses are also on current standby day and night. Several funeral rooms have been prepared for families that may have lost their loved ones through this, one of the worst maritime disasters in Korea's history. A task force team is also on standby to identify the bodies as quickly as possible.
Now, Myung-gil, tell me, I understand that some of the family members of the missing are standing by at the Mokpo Hanguk Hospital hoping to greet their loved ones, of course, alive. How are they taking this excruciating wait?
Well, the families are trying to overcome this excruciating wait by they're just anxiously waiting for news of their loved ones. And also, families are waiting in agony for updates on the search operations. Most families spent their nights in the waiting rooms without much sleep. Although rescue efforts have continued throughout the night, it doesn't seem as though much progress has been made. Back to you.
All right, that was our Kim Myung-gil reporting live from Mokpo Hanguk Hospital, where when the rescued survivors do arrive, they will be taken to this hospital. Now, as Myung-gil just told us, different hospitals throughout Ansan, Gyeonggi Province are receiving bodies that have been recovered. And of course, Shin Se-min joins us on the line. She is standing by at the Korea University Ansan Hospital. Se-min, what is going on there?
A continuous stream of people have been visiting this hospital even on Saturday to pay their respects. Relatives, friends, and even religious groups have been coming through to comfort those family members. Now, a total of 22 bodies have arrived here in Ansan so far, with 6 of them here at a Korea University Ansan Hospital. And the first coffin has been borne out at a nearby funeral hall, and it was of a teacher who lost her life after helping students evacuate the now sunken ferry. Although it wasn't at this specific funeral hall, hundreds of mourners were on site to pay their respects for that teacher. And at around 4 this morning, the body of the vice principal of Taenon High School, who escaped the ship but died Friday in an apparent suicide, arrived at nearby Taeil Funeral Hall here in Ansan, along with another female high school student who died in a disaster. And right, Conn-young, as you have mentioned, the deceased identified at the Mokpo Hanguk Hospital or Mokpo Korea Hospital are being transported. So many of the local hospitals and funeral halls are on full standby in case of any additional bodies coming in after it has been identified.
So, I mean, the entire nation is mourning the loss of those who perished. Our condolences go out to the families and friends who've lost their loved ones. What about the survivors who have been admitted and are being treated? Korea University Ansan Hospital has the most number of patients from this disaster.
Yes, at least 76 students and passengers have been admitted to hospitals here and local hospitals around, and you can easily see outpatients coming into this specific hospital's emergency room if you visit here. And during a press briefing held earlier this morning, officials from the hospital said they are holding one-on-one consultations with the individual patients and constantly checking on their mental status. Doctors here say that 80% of the inpatients are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and that they are looking at months or even years of treatment, especially for those in younger ages. Since Friday night, all media have been told to forego any contact with any of the inpatients here because they are under a great stress. And I will be back with more updates for you, Conn-young, in the later newscast.
All right, thank you, Se-min. I mean, we can't even begin to imagine the difficulty and mental anguish the survivors, as well as the relatives of those confirmed dead and missing, are going through. We wish them all the best. Our prayers are with them. And in news on this Saturday here in Korea, the captain of the ferry is now behind bars, but soon after his arrest, he told reporters that he did order passengers to evacuate the sinking vessel. For more on this, let's go back to our Connie Lee standing by in the newsroom. Connie.
Right, Conn-young, the captain of the ferry and 2 other crew members are in custody now and have been formally charged. Now, the 68-year-old Lee Chun-seok is charged with 5 violations. This includes charges of negligence and a violation of a ship crew law, which requires crew to remain on the vessel until all passengers escape. Now, you can see here, after leaving a court hearing this morning, the captain spoke to reporters, and here he tells them that he did order the passengers to evacuate as the ship was sinking. We do have that soundbite, so let's take a listen.
퇴선 명령 내리셨어요?
예.
승객들한테도 내리셨어요?
예. 돌릴 때 있었던 게 아니라 그 항로를 지시하고 잠시 침실에 볼일에서 잠시 갔다 온 사이에 그렇게 된 겁니다.
So there you have it. The captain is basically saying it wasn't his fault that the ship had tipped over. And he also clearly said that he did order the passengers to evacuate, but Conn-young, that's not what surviving passengers are saying.
Right, unbelievable, just unbelievable how this captain has behaved following the accident and now even. Now, Connie, tell me, it's not just the captain facing the law. There are 2 more crew members who are being charged and arrested. Tell us more about that.
You're right. The 2 other crew members who are also in custody is a 25-year-old third mate, a female with the surname Park. Now, she was reportedly at the helm of the ferry when it sank. Now, another crew member is a 55-year-old man of the surname Cho. Now, all of these crew members were apparently the first ones to escape the sinking ferry. Conn-young.
Right, it's shocking if true. It's their responsibility to stay on board to oversee an orderly evacuation. We all know this as common sense, and we've heard countless stories from surviving passengers that they were told to stay put, stay inside, not move, and even putting their life vests on and staying within the confines of the ferry.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And actually, there is new amateur video released on this Saturday taken by a passenger where it shows people staying put inside their cabins. Now, you can see here people are passing out life vests and some people are already wearing them. Passengers are either laying down or standing, trying to balance themselves in this clearly tilted ship. Now, passengers say that they would have evacuated earlier, but because the announcement from the ship's crew told them to stay put, that's exactly what they did. Now, that's all I have for you right now from the newsroom. Back to you, Conn-young.
Right, a very, very disturbing clip there. Thank you, Connie, for that. All of Korea is focused on the southwest of the nation, holding on to hope that survivors are found in what is one of Korea's worst maritime disasters in decades. Most previously scheduled events in the nation have either been canceled or postponed out of respect for the victims and their families. Our Connie Kim has more.
The whole of Korea has come to a halt as the situation off the nation's southwestern coast continues to unfold. Media outlets have been working around the clock for days now, receiving and giving updates on search and rescue efforts. Korean athletes overseas are among those that have expressed their sorrow. LA Dodgers pitcher Ryu Hyun-jin wrote on his Twitter account that he hopes all passengers to return to their families safely. Bayer Leverkusen's Son Heung-min told local media he couldn't believe the devastating news and wished for as many passengers to be rescued as possible. Back in the nation, cultural events and concerts have been postponed or canceled out of respect for the deceased. Musical concerts scheduled at ancient palaces, including Gyeongbokgung Palace and Changdeokgung Palace, have been postponed indefinitely. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
The search for survivors in waters off Korea's southwestern coast continues, but so do the difficult weather conditions. Let's get a check with our Michelle Park. Michelle, what are rescue divers facing right now in terms of weather conditions?
Well, we are expecting fog and sporadic showers with strong winds blowing in at 12 meters per second, bringing up the wave heights to 2 meters. Now, the average speed of the tides is estimated at between 2.8 to 10 meters per second, which is hindering the rescue efforts. Now, there are 3 times of the day when the slow tides will be coming in, which could help the rescuers. Now, one of the time has already passed at 11:13 a.m. this morning, but there are 2 more coming in at 5:12 and 11:13 p.m. local time. So basically every 6 hours. Now, right now the water temperature is currently at 11.4 degrees and the winds blowing at 6.9 meters per second and the height of the wave at 0.6 meters, which is considered calm. Now, we'll continue to monitor this situation down near Chindo and just hope for the best. Back to you, Conn-young.
Thank you, Michelle, for that. And that's all for me at this hour. Our special coverage on the nation's search and rescue efforts for survivors in Korea's ferry disaster continues. Join me again at the top of the hour.